Hello, America. Hello, CNN. Dr. Fauci. You guys are involved to an extent you understand. That you guys are involved simultaneously with criminally foreign influence syntax treatments, names treatments, value treatments, simultaneously delusions wrought, and simultaneously with your patients and criminals kept needing to hide the same sequence shifts, finding active progressive lies with you guys. And remote uses of your victim reactions because you don't follow mandated law. You have words like extremism used with simultaneously with criminal foreign influence premises treatments, fact treatment nature quality slash IES, and fact treatment nature aspects, sequence shift self valued, database, locations, being private and all of those, that difference, self value, because you guys are victim predators, the same way Congress too. Self valuing roles needs with attorneys of the FBI, like Robert Chevrolet, involved with a defendant, former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, in 2006 district court case. Also, before that case, roles with federal crimes and many names on off Central Connecticut State University, on off Trinity College. There are also roles on off children's campuses in Hartford, Wethersfield, New Britain, West Hartford, Rocky Hill, intercities. They are kept needing to hide live progressions and illusions, even preemptively connected for them. Preemptive, in other words, in parallel with it, not just interstates and international, but what is fluent through countries, not just how they are grouped too. Like, for example, with psychology and psychiatry, all kinds of mental illnesses, racketeering, they hand that off to fake nature, delusions, raw, individually grouped and together, juxtaposed, criminally foreign influence, fact treatment nature, extremism. Extremism is what you use to bring out what is actually, the exploitations of exceptions and exception nature too. They've been setting up fake exceptions, valuing fake things typed into databases, valuing roles actually recorded. They are conscious at all locations. They've been hiding their lies and their actually recorded natures at formal locations by roles planting sequence shifts, wire crime roles, other illusions, identity theft frauds with the news media. NBC Connecticut News has roles with Connecticut FBI and with the Chicago FBI, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously with other agencies, involved with sequence shifts with Congress, with other directors of the FBI, too, and of various natures of federal criminals since before they got caught, in collusion with them. Also, time confessions as strangers mixed with people that pretend they're not strangers, that aren't even in our classrooms, but they're in other classes, associated with where and how they have remote possession of the kids and as the what they call adults of the as the former Mayor Gold, for example, involved with a whole bunch of people with a whole bunch of different natures of organized crime with the kids, established it like it, and then like Chris Cullen sought me out. I never saw him out in my life. I don't know Chris Cullen. 2 times he tried to make exceptions. His roles with various natures of federal crimes with people that are involved now, then and now in my location, with fire departments and with police, Wethersfield Police Department, with predicate acts, falsifying police reports, identity thefts, fraud, slanders, also with overt criminal enterprises. So they have a whole bunch of people with the police chief, Cintron, involved also with Puerto Rican family named Cintron from Puerto Rico, involved intercities with people on off schools and Sandy Hook. There are people from Sandy Hook involved with teachers. Also, there's a teacher from West Hartford with the name O'Neill, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved also with wire crimes with forensics locations and with foreign and domestic families with them through time. Also involved with wire crimes with Connecticut news locations, also with a whole bunch of people next to their locations involved through time with identity theft, frauds, slanders, instances. One of the methods is they have the investigators being and having been used remotely since founding. So before our founding parents were even born, this method was sickly entrenched intercolonies, still sickly distinctly against Native Americans A through Z, still effectively keeping and maintaining everyone blaming other things other than themselves for it doing that, to the colonists to make them rolls with it, and Native Americans to make them rolls with it against themselves. They didn't just divide the Native Americans against themselves. They employed countries A through Z. They employed the human volume, how it actually works, individual, grouped, and species identity of invisible but still discernible, volume /S, and this being where we are valued by nature. Nature as value. Nature, value as nature / nature as value. Where it is three sequence natures that way, simultaneously being three simultaneous natures, simultaneously being. Where it is that per the volume, an identity, the complete identity of sequence, simultaneous nature that is additionally greater than and more finite than it, but relevant, for example, how it is the source of the order of the finite, that which is possession of both sides of the smallest detail, well as the value of the smallest detail. There are two symbols on the sides of the halo with cipher / decipher, with different relative to the sounds of different languages, and relative to one on the website I saw on the website of Yale.com. I believe it's on the website of Yale University. There is a picture of Jesus Christ with the capital letter A, the first letter of the English alphabet, Alpha, A, on the left side of the halo, on the left side of his head, the picture of Jesus Christ in the cipher / decipher. And on the right side of it, and the halo was illuminated. And the right side of it is the capital W, wall, alpha wall. Omega wall is O through W. I mean, it's A through W too. See, alpha and omega distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously our mother. Alpha and omega distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously our father. And also, everyone is distinctly, non-distinctly, and is simultaneously hyper simultaneous nature. That which can only be the value of, it will only stay positive unto itself too. And all exceptions in exception nature are only in demonstration of the same thing. And why and how it's important to understand how there are three distinct identities of nature. And all exceptions in exception nature are in demonstration of the same thing, which also simultaneously teaches what exceptions in exception nature are about. See, the identity of the hyper-simultaneous has aspects about it itself that are constant. So, and that can be discerned. For example, it is one thing. It is, as a hyper-simultaneous, it is a sequence nature. It simultaneously is a semi-nature. I mean, it is simultaneous nature. I use the word nature because nature is identity, and identity it refers to it's in a form where we're dealing with the invisible but still discernible. Identity is relativity to positive and negative simultaneously. The reason why value is a relativity to positive and negative simultaneously, the same way our identity is relevant. But the short words and the revelations regarding that have been attached to other that is impractical, that is tactically impractical, and is tactically improbable, and is criminally foreign influenced, and is simultaneously delusions wrought. And therefore, it is simultaneously sense and sensibilities, natures of identities, of titles, identity, ground, locations, voices further, identity of private and interbranch and intersciences databases further, identities of sciences individually grouped and together further, as identity ground locations. Nations each. The species body longs. Now, semi-ancient trap entertained. No country has an identity that has spoken for its identity bound, as nature bound us. The histories of the people speaking for the histories of America and of other countries leave out the breaching method that came from semi-ancient times, that is recorded, self-valued by them, individually grouped in together. Because since they were kids, the overt criminal enterprises, the private ones, the interbranch, the people of the sciences, abridged, everyone had other told in place of the short words and the revelations that our founding parents left us to teach and have understood up front first. So that we're supposed to self-value how they had words forced because they wanted us to be able to talk about that. They want us to turn, in other words, they left us the means actually recorded to correlate that, to demonstrate that. So American history, you have to understand where and how and why. George Washington had to come to Wethersfield, Connecticut right before the last battle of the Revolutionary War, and to further the counter-extortion of that which was left entrenched with slavery in the North and in the South, and relevant to where and how it was sickly distinctly against everyone, so they could keep how sickly non-distinctly from being discerned. And so we're going to focus on how that was and is, for example, as one method, a predicate acts delivery system method, and or a criminal insidiousness delivery system method, and or a criminal insidiousness propagation method, propagated effectively to have people self-cultivated roles with that, without fathoming as victim predators that nature would keep demonstrating. While demonstrating the breaching method responsible for it, it would keep demonstrating it through them as sequence / simultaneous nature, and now as us, with that being and having been entertained, that left entrenched, yet not unwrenched. Yet no unwrenched. Boxings. So we have the sense and sensibilities of people. They have the nervous system of people that are crazies, to use Dr. Fauci's phrase, and they're sequence shifting predators. So we have the crazies calling us crazy and fabricating conversations with us and with other countries involved with the people that do this on our campuses in collusion with it, making instances at locations they're filming fake things, and then they want to call people liars. Here's a picture of you with them. they're faking the nature of the ties between. They're timing when people come around corners to make confessions, also in the form of statements of their roles with other natures of organized crime at other locations like job sites, unions. See where and how they have exceptions to the law. Like, for example, you have the right to lie about people per union laws, where if you're going to run for office, a union position, for example. So they use the right to lie where they didn't have the right to lie, and timed collusion with that on and off of campus by having me go to the get called to a principal's office or whatever, and then I'm coming back. Someone comes around a corner. This became relevant years later, and it's relevant right now. As people involved, I caught them with child abuses of juxtaposed natures, even sexual with the leaders of the kids, even medical with the leaders of the kids, even judicial with the leaders of the kids, even women judicial roles. It's everyone speaking through others' souls. So you have identity theft, fraud, slander, method, all kinds of wire crime methods, all kinds of natures of police and lawyers, ones with badges too, real sick with medical campuses across, of all different natures, associated with the intelligence community, the military community, involved with these other countries with nuclear weapons pointed at each other. And the alternatives are their inclusion with each other, with all kinds of natures of identity theft, frauds, slanders, their physical delusions simultaneously while they're making criminally foreign influence premises treatments too. So they have sense and sensibilities that can't do anything but sell value. How the locations problems are tied to the racketeering, the identity theft, frauds at the youngest grades, and uses of what is manifest next to the campuses, because they're used to the names of them for identity theft, frauds too, and how they start fights, making us need to use each other's names, and while simultaneously making everyone want and need not to use people's names. They also lie about the simultaneous because that's relevant to where they bring things, and they go, it's either A or B, and therefore leaving out exceptions and exception nature. So they have been preventing mandated law and have roles with Hartford Hospital, with the military community, involved also with the Leahy family. There are multiple people named Brendan Leahy, and there are women in their family. And there are other brothers of the son of one of the Brendan Leahys, with the son and father and women in their family involved with Hartford Hospital's triage. A whole bunch of people with their patients and criminals involved 3 times, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, with Wethersfield Police and Hartford and New Britain and other Middletown and other courts, involved with crimes with a principal child abusers campus, roles with other uses of the kids of other principals in one of that campus in the past, as people involved then and now with this, and the courts and the FBI involved with criminally foreign influence uses of the Facebook pages of Trinity College and of CCSUs and of the Facebook page of New Britain Superior Court and of the principal child abusers campus. Other campuses, they've been using the Facebook page stewards, the police forms in the background. They've been using the families that do the policing of the schools. All those programs when they were kids were involved with identity thefts and frauds and slanders, also with other countries, also with a role that has a whole bunch of confessions at once, relevant to people involved with a whole bunch of different natures of organized crime and uses of the various overt criminal enterprises and private ones with our locations that are involved simultaneously stealing our identities, with the sick fakes you have since founding of psychology and psychiatry, and the sick fake judges speaking fake things and recording themselves speaking fake things and lies with them into identity theft, frauds with them into records, and then switching and forging names and preventing writing. So they have been hiding this from the other judges, but that progressed, that was sustained. So then, they have, they've already painted themselves pretending that needs to have faith in them is relevant. For example, the same way, there's mass craziness. I'm not going to, in other words, We can't have the crazy people originally still dealing with who the crazies are or not. We can't have the delusions, wrought, criminally foreign influence, fact cheaping natures, with making up phrases, making up words like uses of words like extremism and or uses of words like radical, because an identity could be part of an identity is constant and part of it is variable at the same time. So something could be a variable and constant increasing too. So in other words, we have the A/B logic, and like we're supposed to train them how to think, and we're supposed to beg for a response in writing. Make sure you get a response for whether Hartford Hospital, because they have the military involved with this. They also have a Rick Sam Faglione who sought me out as an adult. I don't even know, to make confessions per his roles with this Leahy family that pretended other, and his roles with a boyfriend of a principal when I went to that principal child abuser campus. And his father is also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with the house on my street, involved with wire crimes. He doesn't know that, but it has something to do with Tim O'Brien with the corners of that street, and confessions in the past, and the names they brought up. See, they make juxtaposed confessions from strangers, and people are going to think about that, because it's also relevant where and how they're consciously letting kids' minds know where and how the branches of government are differentially criminally foreign influence, but self-valued roles with that, because there's remote uses of that. So they're pretending motivations and passions and emotions, but they're pretending motivations because there are the other branches of government and overt criminal enterprises and private ones in themselves. All that was used remotely too. A whole bunch of other countries here. So an O'Brien family had insights into how they have people involved with Asian countries and people involved with Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, and with a Mayor Gold, a former Mayor Gold, and Debbie Gold, and people associated with Joe Aiello, involved with various natures of organized crime simultaneously, and confessions from strangers who then pretended to know me and pretend to be against my behavior, leaving that out. Because we have men and women from off locations involved, keeping other motivations, natures, needs, interests, roles, times with the overt criminal enterprise, private one, kept needing to hide the same sequence, shift, finite, progressive lies, natures of identity, theft, fraud, slanders against individuals, group, difference, and all together at the same time, right down to instances at our schools. And it is recorded how this works. So we have a whole bunch of fake integrity, identities of jobs, nature, titles that they call the constituencies, the people of the party, political parties. People use words like politics, simultaneously using criminally, tactically, effectively, self-valued, criminally foreign influence, premises, treatments, fact-cheaping nature qualities, and delusions juxtaposed. And then they tell other people that have delusions. While they're sequence shifting and roles with switching names and preventing writing. So they have the courts and prisons and recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, forcing their patients and criminals and innocent people to entertain them, attaching everyone to fake words and fake ties to other people, fake ties to themselves, and at locations. They replace what's actually recorded audio and video with fabricated audio and video. They have crimes with their patients and criminals, the worst ones, since before they were caught. And against the innocent people that were trying to tell them that, there were roles with wire crimes with them, mail crimes with them, physical delusions with them. We have to address how they have all kinds of natures of corruption with tied to uses of the sense and sensibilities of various natures of religious spots. And that's also relevant to where and how you have Fauci calling people crazies when they know what's actually recorded is CNN involved with all kinds of judicial and executive racketeering that is also drugs and medicines crimes simultaneously. They are involved with doctors or ones with badges associated with courts and various natures of courts and their family members, not just for the motivations like greed and things like that, not just for the motivations of needs to respond as syntax nature to bad crimes and people they don't know how to respond to. They don't know how to respond to because they've been involved with the uses of intercities connections between the campuses originally and still off the records, breaching method applied, unchallenged, undiscerned. Further and further, it engineered other motivations, natures, needs, interests, real, but all used remotely. And so all wanting not to be that, wanting to follow their natural nature, but individually grouped together. You guys are identities of, of pseudo practicality, of pseudo integrity. So you can't afford to have mandated law followed. So Anthony Fauci, knowingly but also unknowingly, only knows to the extent he needs to highlight. They're doing, according to them, really, even if they made it up, they're involved with evidence perception racketeering. They're involved with, for example, they're involved with creating fake medical conditions in humanity with other countries, leading up to the World Trade Center attack. And since our states and other countries were already involved with tortures and pretending not to realize such ways, getting away with it, relative to the families involved with it, as judges and prosecutors speaking fake things into records, complete possession over the fact-cheating nature of the women leaders, even because of how, since they were kids, everyone's speaking through others. If they try to make exceptions, that's already attached to it. They can't get out of it. You guys are in a little rat trap that the breaching method put as trap/S, as method/S, and everyone missed the method. Our founders left us means to let nature show us it and how to explain it. But you guys are preventing free speech and pretending others simultaneously, forcing qualities of fact-cheating nature incapable of defending yourselves and us at the same time. It's not just shock and awe, wherein how Anthony Fauci referred to people as the crazies. In other words, because they use that, they use like, in other words, some psychos only capable of being that way because that at the world, at the what's it called, the Capitol. Even if they might have made it up though too, because they do make up predicate acts categorically tied with people from Washington D.C. and the World Trade Center that were leading up to the attack, having been involved with criminally foreign influenced, remote controlled, used investigators, and themselves, and everyone tied to them, and everyone next to everyone. It's how they keep their sensibilities and even uses of corners of streets and all along routes, like from where the witch trials place and is right next to where George Washington had to leave slavery entrenched in the North when he with the counter extortion in Wethersfield, Connecticut, right before the last battle of the Revolutionary War, where North and South were still entrenched with slavery and with the torture method /S against everyone that was. And so it forced tricked. Our founders counter extorted everybody and forced them to fight with each other as fact-cheating nature. So the North had no choice but to counter slavery as fakes because they were only capable of being fakes trying to be other, but only capable of being fakes. Because the same way the Native Americans were, their education was taken from them. The same way because by the colonists. So they're blaming the colonists. This is the way the breaching method wanted and needed. And so everyone self-valued, education per those narratives, criminally orchestrated, the criminal re-engineering of human fact-cheating nature reception, data reception, evidence reception is self-valued, rolls with it. This is database relationships and relativity to us with our instances with other people. So I do not know this. I only know he went 2 times out of his way to pretend other and walked by me in a cafeteria one time. I don't know. I don't know him. What is the Christopher Cullen? His family and his friends are involved with New Britain Superior Court, Hartford courts, and various natures of foreign and domestic family members along Route 3 and along the on and off from Weathersfield, from where Main Street, Weathersfield, the corner. It's corners on that street. Like there's a house on that street too, but involved with all kinds of medical and other natures of organized crime because they have various natures of police forms and plainclothes police and roles where their systems share the what being a police is with the racketeering and the physical delusions with the psychology and the psychiatry, also involved with identity theft, frauds, and slanders. So increasingly self-valuing, having self-valued roles with instances the same, but distinct at locations. So those same courts and police forms, and as ones criminally foreign influence too, with how kept that way since they were kids, also recorded, tied to what I caught them doing with the campuses. They were victims of it first when they were kids. The ones that as the men and women now, I caught with the principal child abusers campus. They're pretending other because they made up fake charges against me and fabricated audio and video, also with the news multi-front. And they prevented writing. I've been catching them since before that. They've been making arrests. When I caught them with the former director of the FBI and involved with deans of campuses and their kids and people associated with them on and off campuses and people associated with teachers I had also off campuses where they persuaded them to roles not wanting to be, not needing, not knowing, but with identity theft, fraud, slanders, specifically to keep the sense and sensibilities of people, the nervous system of people, collusion with those delusions, and the criminally foreign influence simultaneous. That is offensively making up things individually grouped in together to prevent people from having mandated law. They pretend they don't understand people. The foreign and domestic, they have they pretend people make conspiracy theories. They persuade people to make conspiracy theories with them. They've been planting evidences on Facebook the same way they've been doing it at locations. I do not know this Dominic Abate who demonstrated it is true. I know him through the confessions of others. He's involved with federal crimes with the people at the corner of, all along Route 3, but at the corner of Southstein Highway and Town Line Drive. And juxtapose nations, nature's needs, interest in there, pretended real, but that aren't. And his roles with the intelligence community, that are, with people that are pretending not to be intelligence community are, as they're acting coaches too, and are associated also with doctors and police forms that attacked that pretended they had conversations with me at the database. I never met them in my life. In other words, there's a Dr. Gilmore tied to it, Dr. Christina Silka, before she was a doctor, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with this guy. I don't know what he looks like, but with the people on Church Street in Weathersfield, involved with drugs and medicines crimes, with the military and with the interbranch as ones involved with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, and strangers that would seek me out and make confessions that have ties to each other with that, because there were uses of that. It's identity theft, fraud, slander method, sickly distinctly against every colonist, against every Native American, that we have to understand to discern what it is doing relative to where and how it's sickly, non-distinctly. I mean, see, where it's sickly distinctly. New York City is about how all locations of America are sickly distinctly victims. They are sickly distinctly victims more than us, a lot of ways. And they have all exceptions, exception nature and demonstration of the same thing. effectively to keep left out and having kept left out, how sickly non-distinctly. How, for example, countries like Russia and America with nuclear weapons are still roles with, since before our founders in America were even born, since before the founders in Russia were even born, the scale infrastructure, the denatured like lawn plots and houses, it means to them, and scale of it and stuff. Denatured identity grounds, identity of relationship to itself, and the means to cause positive value, nature, progressions, acts, and natures. Fit to another system, fit to other systems, all tactical terror than that one tied to our fact sheet nature, wherein how we are actually manifest, wherein how we actually need to use words like value. Because it's about, for example, where and how there is functionality by the invisible and how it is bound by the hyper invisible that is simultaneously in demonstration of the value of the hyper simultaneous having an identity of relationship to itself that is only increasing as value, and having the value of that only increasing but distinctly, not distinctly, and simultaneously too. So we have a portion of existence slash space that is all we need, while having it, part of it be, and that part that is individual, like it won't be semi-nature. That part that is constant, the only reason it could be semi-nature is additionally. And the only way it could be additionally is per how we have this semi-nature conjunction to what is hyper conjunctive. There's a trinity of, there is a coordinating conjunction, there's a correlative conjunction, and there's a hypercorrelative conjunction that no part of English can be separated from, individually grouped and together. In fact, it has them with aspects and how manifest, individually grouped and together in demonstration of that. Same reason cell nucleus, cell body, cell wall are manifest the way they are. I'm not a doctor. The experts on knowledge are experts on abridged sciences. They're using knowledge to get over on correlation nature. They're denying the value of sequence truth. They are valuing they're valuing how exceptions, exception nature are being and having been prevented, how what is hyper evidential is prevented from being used by the logic of people. For example, at locations and with the interbranch, because increasingly at locations, they have roles with their patients and criminals and with the syntax of people. And with, even people, the fact that they even communicate, they can't afford to have discerned what is actually recorded. They could have prevented a whole bunch of bad crimes that took place, and they know this is recorded. The same people that are needing to pretend other by self-valuing roles with the campuses that study crimes and things like that. What happened with there? Get down. I'll gather around. So there are some courts criminally involved with uses of on and off CCSU, Paul Manafort Drive, and on and off other sides of the campuses, where and how they have people that were involved with, where they plant evidences with the investigators, where they are themselves victims, but criminally foreign influenced. They're already being and having been used remotely. Their motivations are also recorded, but we have to report you have to respond for what I tell you I caught them doing with the principal child abusers campus and with the policing families of it, and their roles with the shopping centers and the policing of them and the unions narratives and their identities by that. Well, I'm a teamster. You guys are child abused since you're kids. You don't know how to speak for identity. Oh, I'm a local 230. I'm a this. I'm a machinist. Yo, make sure you pick one name in sequence. Give me the name who's going to disbelieve, who says they disbelieve anything I say into branches, says they know me. You see, you have some fake cops. You have fake integrity. They increasingly value getting away with using means to use, like how they're the only people to call when half people shoot each other and they have to clean up disgusting things that no one should have to do. They have to respond to things as fact sheet no one should have to do, but they shouldn't self-value not being able to do it and no one having been able to do it, and means to use that as an excuse to prevent mandated law offensively and to pretend passions and emotions. Like we're going to we don't need to debate with your motivations. Your motivations and your narratives are evidence. And two, where the exception nature have prevented their value in courts since pounding drums. Yeah. So say I use a little sarcasm or passions and emotions like that. You guys already attach me and others to fake passions and emotions. You've been using private locations, everything tied to the interbranch to prevent responses. You have these locations are offensively. Oh, well, this is what we heard. And then they're just adding more, stacking on more names. You watch. Follow mandated law. Tell me who disbelieves. It's against us. One of the things they're criminally doing is switching names and forging names. Rolls into the wire crime acts and methods with the phone that the Wethersfield police is involved with, and with the news media with them personally and with their own phones. The news media with their phones also have distinct connected wire crime acts and methods, and nature's involved. And nature's is actually recorded. See criminal insidiousness. Not even a lawyer. The lawyers too originally still them fabricating audio and video too at locations, roles, and interbranch. Little fake punks preventing exception nature. Who spoke for New York City? Who spoke for what slavery was about? Little fake punks. Slavery is about a breaching method. Slavery is about what employed everyone enslaved, and they employed the sickly, distinctly uses of white and black, where and how they have countries. Hundreds of countries are how many countries are in? I don't know how many. There's a lot of countries in Africa, for example. How many countries are white? There are a lot of countries that are white, and more than England was entrenched here with slavery, and individually grouped together. They had North and South, sickly, distinctly roles with slavery, demonstrably to keep how sickly non-distinctly from being discerned, while it was engineering entertained what can't be entertained and afford, used or heard the short words and revelations regarding what really preserved the republic for which we stand. Still criminally re-engineered, still prevented free speech at all locations, and sequence value for little trick fake punks games behind people's backs. They need to pretend passions and emotions too about the way we speak. Oh, well, you're using names like punk. Listen, we're calling them the crazies. They're preventing mandated law using their Facebook page. They have the Facebook page of Harvard Hospital involved with agencies and militaries and fucking doctors involved with child sex offenders and their patients and criminals before they got caught. And a whole bunch of people on my street involved with untimely deaths with them. One on the campus of Trinity College. People switching names, forging names, fake ties to me and conversations with me on my campuses there, intercities that are connected to the campuses on Wethersfield. Then they all pretend they don't know what the heck I'm talking about. I asked you there calmly and here talk calmly to respond to this, and you attach me here and there. I thank that fraud, pretending passions, emotions about their motivations for it. Don't pretend morality. ILO's Kitchen, ILO Home Services. Respond for the news media and Hartford Police. Let me give the name of the Hartford Police you guys communicated with, because you still haven't responded. And there are still people next to the schools involved with drugs and medicines crimes, other natures of organized crime, and gun crimes. With this Joe ILO who brought up his fake passions and emotions against me shooting a gun towards the ground years ago. who he also made confessions about it, his roles with this Christopher Cullen, who sought me out. I don't know him. He sought me out to pretend other, make fake exceptions to pretend other. Make sure I get the name, because these are some sick judges involved with them and their family members. You watch. Bow, bow, bow. Fake benches, bow, fall, the wall. Out of your minds. Make sure. Hurry up. I keep talking because I'm waiting for someone to give me a goddamn response. You can't, if you call the police, they'll replace the audio and video. The ones that are involved with the other countries here and intercities, the ones that are parallel as ones recorded how kept criminally foreign influence a whole bunch of different countries and the areas of overt criminal enterprises. They have a number of people with the departments at Central Connecticut State University personally involved with people associated with criminal enterprises and narratives with investigators, with forensics locations, and with news crimes. With their investigators retired and standing in the time, like a Joshua Julian also brought up news articles that were lies in the past, as one of the people that is recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with federal criminals before they got caught, as ones also that are tied to them and as them and their family members, the co-defendants, a former director of FBI, after that was proven. And then in his defendant capacities, when he was a defendant in 2006, part of the case /S that was ongoing at the time of my father's death. These doctors also attached me to fake words with themselves, fake ties to themselves, fake natures of ties to themselves and their kids and families. Ones that are roles I never had classes with, never saw them around campuses. They're in the backgrounds pretending other into databases with this Debbie Gold and her father, former Mayor Gold, other mayors in their cliques. That people on off the state prison offices, on off the state judicial branch offices, involved with federal crimes with the FBI, other agencies. Like there's a CIA family, real or made up. No, in other words, too, with the confessions and confirmations on Facebook, then they pretend passions, emotions when they're sequence shifting involved with identity thefts and frauds, and saying shifting things and pretending passions and emotions on Facebook. And then they take your page away when you call them a name, because they've been fabricating. In other words, they've been planting evidences online and at locations as the people that are recorded in cases involved with predicate acts, with depositions involved with predicate acts, with other instances with police and at locations where bad things happen all the time involved with predicate acts, at campuses that have connections between them that even they missed, but only understanding through needs to hide live progressions and uses of locations like where they time, Fauci nature oriented. Investigators have been criminally foreign influenced since founding. Don't forget that. Pounding drums. Follow mandated law, because they've been using, so it's not just these doctors that speak, they're leaving out exception nature. They're not, in other words, the mandated laws for them to not make things up into databases and pretend not to realize or pretend not to be able to fathom how long fake things and fake ties between people, fake audio and videos stacked into databases. They know the various natures of courts are personally criminally involved with that. So it's also how they have the families that work with the Wethersfield police involved with tons of names, involved with, with the untimely deaths and uses of the confessions coordinated intercities when I was coming home. So they had confessions to me here by people conducted with the predicate acts roles on Trinity College. And that those confessions to me here were designed to make it look like I had conversations with them before that, and that never were. Like with the Robert Rodriguez bringing up how his wife died of the untimely deaths with the drugs, and his roles with his family, with nurses and the foreign and domestic nurses, and their roles with forensics locations for him, and with place in shopping centers where he works, and where he had a business near there, which is near from Main Street to Wells Road, which is near Wells Road. I think that was one of the places. I don't know if I never saw him in his business. I don't know this kid. I remember years ago they tried to make an exception on Maple Street. He was communicating with a Demaro. I believe it was a Demaro. And just for a couple of minutes about his mother came out there and she said, "Oh, you know, to buy that." They're planting evidences. These people are little rap mobs involved with various managers of stores, through different companies that were the stores. In other words, involved with the unions, things like that. Then they have everyone speaking through other, and they get locked, and they stay locked. Criminally foreign influence. Our locations, areas, and states have been used by a breaching method that was sophistication here since before our founding parents were even born. They left us to demonstrate this and to talk about and to understand this. So follow mandated law. I don't know this, Paul Abted. I know a bunch of people with the name Kerr and Officer Jerry Miller, and people with the name Cololo and Demaro recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, and people from other countries recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. The corner of Town Line Drive and South Steen Highway is involved with them with predicate acts. Also, as the ones involved along Route 3 with that criminally foreign influence, and with people involved intercampuses with predicate acts and child abuses, identity thefts, and frauds against little kids too simultaneously. It's juxtaposed natures of organized crime and use and abuses of the kid and uses of that, where and how they have types of experts that respond and then defend their responses, where and how those types of experts originally and still were used to further the things they are pretending to be against. Only capable of furthering them too, because of how this is with the kids with campuses. So get a police to respond with integrity too for the campus police, and get me a goddamn name. Make sure that you get response too for why they have hid this from, or who's hiding, and what their narratives are in the background with the the Board of Education and with the parent teachers, because they've been spreading lies through their kids, the ones with the courts and the prisons involved, as ones involved with overt criminal enterprises with the locations. But I want to name my paper now. Make sure you say sorry to the Fox News judges too. Make sure you fix the fake news, WFSB, WTNH, and Fox News, and make sure you respond for what I told you. I told you, proved it, and you guys hid and forced crimes against kids, and there are more then and now. Promised and confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, recorded. You're not going to get away with having a badge and a gun. You're not going to get away with having a gavel. You're not going to get away with having a pen. So make sure you follow mandated law.